everybody. I'm Amy. I'll be covering all of the releases from the week of Wednesday, February 24th. But joining us, we also have our lovely new moderator. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Rob. I'll be in the chats with you on YouTube, Instagram, and Let Your Geek Side show. So if you have any questions,
Artists have to take a week off. Paul will be back next week, but we do still have a great show for you guys. Jazz and I have pulled some comic book news for you guys. So let's jump right into that with the biggest piece of news that we love here at the Comics Hall has been picked up for television series. As reported by The Hollywood Reporter, James Tynion IV and Martin Simmons' runaway hit, The Department of Truth, has been picked up by Sister, which is a production banner of Elizabeth. Tynion will co-write the series script, and then he and Simmons will executive produce the project. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Department of Truth deals with a mysterious government organization that focuses on the way that conspiracy theories can actually volume 1 trade. I believe that's out in stores this week, and it is flying off the shelves thanks to this recent announcement.
Awesome. Our next piece of news is that the comic book Die is to end at issue 20. And Kieran Gillen, the writer of that, fine all the time, and he
All
wrote
the
that
time.
all the time. So, with the reveal of Image Comics May 2021 solicitations, it's been revealed that writer Kieran Gillen and artist Stephanie Hans will conclude their creator-owned title Die with issue 20, a fitting number given the book's association with 20-sided dice. Just this week, Gillen and Hans were also awarded the British Fantasy Award for Best Comic or Graphic Novel for their work on Die. So again, congrats to them, and you should all check out Die, and then you can.
It is Goth Jumanji with Dungeons
Yeah.
and Dragons. So have fun with that. Next up, we've got a couple of scheduling delays and reschedules for Image and Marvel Comics. The finale of Marvel's current King in Black event has been slightly delayed, as many comic book events are. The event will now hit stands on April 7th, which is about a 2-week delay. And as a result, Venom 34 and 35, and number 35 is the 200th Venom overall. Those have been pushed back to April 7th and May 5th. And then Planet of the Symbiotes and the Fantastic Four before May's Heroes Reborn. But we still got a little ways to go to tie up some of the loose threads. But from Image Comics, we have a rescheduling of a highly anticipated series conclusion. Ascender is back on the schedule after its long delayed final arc. The creative team took some personal time, and Image has resolicited. So the arc, the last arc, which I believe is called Starseed, will begin with number 15, and that will launch on May 26th. So you can return to interruptions occur. Ascender will be able to proceed on time to the end of its series. So that's the follow-up to Descender, fabulous book from Image Comics. It is back on track, so we're glad to see.
New surprise series announcements for 2021. The publisher said more information would be coming throughout the year, but fans can look forward to these new titles later this year, which are, and bear with me because there's so many and they're all so exciting. So we have Deathstroke Incorporated, or Inc., a Harley Quinn anime is half of the new center of the DC Omniverse, DC Vampires, a working title, Robin and Batman, Joker, a puzzle box, The Legend of Batman, Crush, and Lobo. So all you Lobo fans, you're getting that in a huge world of DC Comics on the screen. So DC fans, I hope you're all looking forward to at least one, if not all of those.
I'm looking forward to DC Vampires, though I do want to know what the official title is going to be, because that is just the working title.
Absolutely. I'd be interested to see the Flash as a vampire, to be perfectly honest.
Oh
Like,
no. Oh, that is
that would just
that is
be
the last person
unstoppable.
you want being a vampire. Like Batman, fine. He's already got the costume.
He's already
Great.
got it.
The Flash is a vampire. I am on the first ticket out of I'm off the planet. Superman, take me somewhere else,
We're all
please.
gone. That's that's a
Ooh,
rampage.
that's not good. Um Oh my goodness. Sorry, that mental image is horrible. I love it. But that is it for our comic book news this week. We don't have a panel of the week because that is a long-running feud between myself and Paul, and I don't want to get in the way of that. Give me a week to rest my ego. But we do have our next segment, the weekly haul, and what a haul this week is. It is the last week of the month, but there are plenty of new titles coming out. Notable books that you guys will want to keep your eyes on. So we're going to start out with our pick of the week. A little title from Marvel called Marvel Voices Legacy #1. Now, Jasmine and I both checked out this title, and it is an anthology series. This is the third, I believe, comic in the Marvel's Voices lineup. Of course, based on the incredible podcast Marvel's Voices, which is, it's not a storytelling, well, It is a storytelling podcast, but it is not a narrative podcast. It is hosted by Angelique Roche, and it is meant to uplift and spotlight diverse voices in the storytelling community. And so some of the personalities who have appeared on the podcast and gotten to talk about their favorite comic book loves have contributed to these anthologies. And so this one is specifically for Black History Month. This is the previous Marvel's Voices was the indigenous voices, and this one boasts a lot of incredible talent. I'm going to get started here with, I'm going to do writers, artist, colorist, but they are all different creative teams. So we've got John Ridley, Mohali Mashigo, Stephanie Williams, Tochi Onyebuchi, Nettie Okorafor, and Danny Lore as the writers. And then we have Olivier Coapel, Chris Allen, Natasha Bustos, Ken Lashley, Chris Cross, and Valentine Delandro on art. And then for colors, a couple of colorists repeat. We've got Laura Martin, Rochelle Rosenberg, Juan Fernandez, and Dan Brown. And this is a jam-packed anthology with 6 unique stories, plus a little backup bonus that isn't part of the main anthology, but there's a cool ongoing bonus story initiative running through Marvel Comics this month. So, Jazz, do you wanna kind of start us off with a little bit of, like, I don't know, your first reactions to this anthology?
So right away, I was super excited. I love I love anthologies in general. You get so many characters in a normal comic book page amount, and you just get to see everybody's stories. And I like seeing how writers condense those stories within the short amount of time that they have. My favorite uh, story in this was actually the starting one, "Words Do Matter," which was about Miles Morales, because it there were so few word blocks in there, and John Ridley just captured so much. It would say kind of an insult or something bad that Miles or somebody else could feel about themselves, and then cross out a couple words, one word, and change it into a more positive affirmation, while it goes through Miles kind of feeling alone in his city and then fighting a bad guy while he's all suited up. And it's all about finding that power within yourself and self-love. And it was a really beautiful way to start off the anthology, and absolutely my favorite story that was included. um the colors are gorgeous, the panels go through, we see sometimes like Miles breaking out of the borders of it in a tiny little Miles, which is one of my favorite pages. And it conveys so much, like time passing and almost his entire story and who he is as a person in these few pages.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That was a fabulous story to open the anthology. And when you actually get to the credits page in the book, it does say "start here" because usually with an anthology, you can jump around. All of the stories are disconnected but unified in theme. But in terms of accessibility, because it is a short anthology, you don't have to have an extensive knowledge of each of these Marvel characters. A familiarity with them helps, of course, especially for one of my particular favorites, which is the Blade story, because you got to know that Blade is a daywalker, but they don't require a massive comic book knowledge. You don't have to be the foremost Domino expert to understand what's going on in her story,
Mhm.
and especially playing with the form. In the way that John Ridley and then Olivier Coapel do for the Miles Morales story, using so few words to make such a big impact, and I really do love that. Like one of the examples that stood out was "you are alone," and then "alone" was crossed out, and it says "you are one." Like you're a complete person. You're not alone by yourself. You are a complete person. And so that was a really nice way to show Miles's journey. Now, if you're a fan of the anthology format for comics, this is obviously a must pick up. And then the characters that are spotlighted, in case any of these tickle your fancy, are Miles Morales, Domino, Monica Rambeau, Riri Williams, Blade, and then there is a Nigerian tale from the Venomverse. So it does feature a number of superhero characters, but notably a character from the Venomverse who I'm actually admittedly not very familiar with if they've been in other comics. Now, we're not going to do a full aim on this, but I do want to give you guys the heads up. This is a 4.99 issue that tends to be consistent for Marvel's event issues or slightly oversized, and this is slightly oversized. It's a 35-page issue, 35-page issue. It is a one shot. There's not going to be a continuation, and you don't have to have read the other Marvel's Voices uh, series to understand what's going on here. Plus, as most Marvel comics do, it includes a free bonus edition. So you can check that out, give it to a friend. You can download it to your digital collection. It does come. So it's basically getting 2 comics for the price of 1. So if you buy a physical copy, you get the digital bonus edition. And then otherwise, this was a big release from Marvel this week, one of the larger notable releases. And there's also at least 4 or 5 variant covers, very beautiful, each kind of spotlighting a different character. So there is a Miles cover, there is a Shuri cover, there's a Monica Rambeau cover. Um, and so your store should have plenty of copies. And it's important to note also, if you're coming into this from WandaVision, perhaps, you're going to see a very different Monica Rambeau than you're used to, but it is still kind of great to see people taking an interest in her from WandaVision. Um, but it is a little different, so be prepared for that. Just there's never a one-to-one crossover, but it's great. A couple of writers are making their Marvel Comics debut with this, and it's just a really nice kind of appetizer plate of comic book character stories that you don't have to have a huge knowledge of. And then it is worth pointing out that there is a bonus Storm story in the back. There's a Marvel Blade story, also writes a Storm story in collaboration with Saint Bo. You do get a bonus story. So if that's what you get for your $4.99. If you wanted to
I
say
know, I
anything
was
else.
thinking I wanted to kind of say, Amy mentioned the Monica, fighting and everybody saving the day and stuff and Panic at the Supermarket is just kerfuffle and the heroes that are featured in it are like, "Oh, we're gonna go save the day." But it definitely read it from, from Words Do Matter to Nighttime Bodega Run, read the whole thing.
Setting, if you will, because
Mhm.
you got to remember that even costumed superheroes do have to go to the grocery store every now and then, and
Yeah.
that's Marvel's Voices Legacy #1 out this week from Marvel Comics. So next up, I'm gonna take a chance to do a couple of the month, a little bit of a shorter month. So I'm going to aim 2 books for you guys. One from AIM is the kind of evaluation system we like to give to books. Um, we don't like to do numbers here. We like to do a more in terms of how easy is it to grab and read and understand the story and what's going on. Do you have to have prior back knowledge? And how easy is it to grab and read? Where can you find it? Is it going to be? Then we have interest. Are there similar books that you're reading that we could recommend? If you like this, then you might like this other title. And also, who is money or the monetary value? How much does it cost? How many pages are you getting? Are there any special reasons why it may be priced up or down? Just want you to know what you're getting in terms and colors by Brad Simpson. Now, Fleece and Forstner are no strangers to comics. However, you might not horror story. So don't be fooled by the cute and cuddly exterior. This is a very, very interesting. This is a true #1. Independent books that are creator owned don't require you to have read a lot of other things, with exceptions of sequel series like Abbott, 1973, 5-issue miniseries, so you know how many books you can be looking for. And your store should have plenty available. But if not, it is on meet Silence of the Lambs. It is a it is a cute and cuddly looking horror story that has a bit of murder mystery element to it, an animated look to it, and Forstner does an amazing job with that. Having done the My Little Pony comics and capturing that animation style, are your kind of animated classics brought into a new light. The first issue does a really great job at establishing the story. Doesn't give too much of the mystery away. It discusses the topics of how much, but they remember your face, they remember commands. Um, and so we follow a stray dog who is brought into a new kind of shelter, and she's introduced to all of her compatriot, the gentleman who brings all these stray dogs home to his farm. Um, Without giving away too much else, it is a fun little romp. Definitely something I'm going to be reading for the whole 5 issues, because the first us, this is a good time to remind you that in fact a lot of comic books do receive ratings like movies and like video games, and you can often find the rating on the barcode. This one specifically is T plus. There is some slightly more mature, but not hardcore mature mystery. And if you are a variant cover fiend or a horror fan, you're going to want to check out the full lineup of solicitations they've got so far, because there are behind me. I picked up the Silence of the Lambs cover this week. Great right out the gate. They haven't solicited the 5th cover yet, but Tony hints that makes just a lot of really fun classic film poster variants, and those are open order, so they're not like specially priced up or anything. So your store should have those available in scale. And the first issue is about 34 pages, so a great opening issue, and you will get a lot of entertainment value for the story. And I was just so impressed by the animated style of the comic, and I think I've said this for a few other series, a few other select series, just your eyes are doing the animating of the panels. Such a fun and weird little release this week. So definitely don't let Faith #1 from Boom Studios. Of course, I am a sucker for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and this is a fun and unique one-shot release from Boom Studios, written by Jeremy. Beautiful Kevin Wada cover. There are 5 covers available this week, but most of them are incentive variants. But if you're just picking up the normal issue, you get a beautiful watercolor style designed by Kevin Wada. Now, in terms of the orders and availability at your store may be dependent on the general interest that they receive for the main Buffy series. So if not a lot of people at your store are ordering this book, you don't have to be reading the main story to completely understand what's going on. And in fact, this book is required reading if you're already reading Buffy. It will help inform you of details in the main story, but it stands alone. Well enough. She had her own series with Angel the Vampire when the license was at Dark Horse, but this is the new, modernized, revitalized version of Faith for what is dubbed the Buffy reboot. It actually takes place, you see in the comic, there's a date, and it takes place at Christmas. In terms of interest, if you're enjoying the main Buffy book title, you got to pick this one up. If you're not already reading the main Buffy title, or you're a fan of the TV series but haven't really delved into the comics, this is worth a look. It definitely is. Faith is a character who didn't necessarily, but she never really had a proper backstory in the comics. This is an entirely new version, so also it's not the same version of Faith that you have in the television series. It stays in its lane and it plays in the world of Buffy, but if you're not reading Buffy or you're not interested, then I wouldn't go for it. However, if you're kind of looking for a place to dip your toes in and see whether or not the main Buffy series is for you, then I would definitely recommend picking this up. It is told through non-linear storytelling worlds she can escape into, and particularly she likes Die Hard. So that's a fun kind of story element that helps anchor you to the tale. In terms of the money in this, this is a hefty book. It is $7.99, and if you're going for any of the variants, they advertisements. So it is no fluff, no filler, all story. And I really enjoyed it. She gets a great new redesign by Eleonora Carlini, because Eleonora has not been the main artist for the Buffy series. But this one's a lot of fun. I wanted to cover it because she's my favorite character in the show, and a little bit of a shorter aim because of the fact that I can't give away too much of the spoilers, and it is very contingent on whether or not you're familiar with the character or the world of Buffy in general. But it's a great release this week from Boom Studios, and definitely isn't coming. It's not out this week, but the next issue is coming out very soon, and wanted to introduce you all to a little something that she loves. So, Jazz, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I will be covering in the Sandman universe. This is the beautiful cover for issue #1 that came out many, many months ago. If you're all reading it, go ahead and shout out in the comments. But otherwise, it is on issue 7, and issue 8 is coming out. Issue by Nick Robles. Now it's Javier Rodriguez, but the colors are Matt Lopez, and it is written by G. Willow Wilson, who is absolutely incredible and really immerses herself in the Sandman universe, in his universe. But Ruin the Nightmare escapes the realm to go seek the boy he loves, and in doing so, he accidentally goes through the mind of Lindy, single mom and Shakespearean scholar. If any of you know any history about the bard, it's really contested as to whether he wrote his works or not. So that's kind of what her master's or her doctoral thesis is about, and the different versions of who the bard could have been. And then she's told that she has to figure out which one is the true bard, the true Shakespeare, if she ever wants to escape. But like her reality starts slipping. She's obviously an angel and a wizard named Heather, who was trained by John Constantine. So it's bringing a lot of the eclectic cast of the Sandman universe already. Really nice cameo appearances from people that, in terms of accessibility, you don't have to have read all of Sandman to like this. However, I think it would be better if you had. I have not read all of Sandman. It started publishing before I was born, and I just cannot catch up. Probably be popping up. Constantine is in other things besides Sandman, even though he was introduced in it. So it's pretty accessible. Interest, again, like you have to be interested in Shakespeare to like this first arc. Um, I think after Romeo and Juliet. as we move into the next arc, which focuses less on Lindy and more on Heather and her band of misfits like Ruin and like the Angel and Todd, Heather's boyfriend. It focuses on the fairies, and but if you like magic stories, if you like anything in Sandman, if you like kind of discovery stories and uh really the magical element is really what gets me, like this beautiful sprawling fantasy Matthew, and then right, and then a baby gargoyle named Goldie. So she's like this all gold little globby looking gargoyle, and she's adorable. She just goes around saying meep, and it's very cute. It is 17 plus. The Dreaming Waking Hours. It's a lot of dark themes. There was some body horror. There's lots of blood and violence. So definitely 17 plus.
I
Don't
think
let your kids read this.
I think Chris has an asset if we can get the double spread page pulled up, but there was some
Mhm.
creepy snake stuff going on there. So
Super creepy. So this is
it's
when
beautiful though.
yeah, this is when Ruin escapes into the mortal world by taking over Lindy's dream. Obviously, this is something that nightmares do. They go in, they take over normal dreams. Lindy's been going to this house though, like as a recurring dream, and he accidentally pushes too far into the nightmare world. And I really love how these borders and these panels and the double spread is done because we get that overwhelming sense of him completely taking over the nightmare. He goes way too far. And that's kind of the whole gist about him. His name is Ruin. He takes everything too far. He ruins everything he touches. And he's such a like his coat is beautiful. It's like this rainbow and he's dressed really nicely, but he's just so downtrodden and Eeyore about everything. He's like, I can't do anything right. And he's running away from Dream, which is really hard to do. And there's just an angel and a wizard helping him. So it's just incredible. And if you like really rich characters, gorgeous art, really vibrant colors, and a story that you can sink your teeth into. Like this isn't really a light read. It is pretty like you have to really immerse yourself into the world and think pretty critically about everything that you're seeing. It's really gorgeous. I'm pretty sure they're going to be 12 issues total, and there haven't been any trades so far, so they'll just collect those all together. And I really recommend if you cannot find the backstories at your comic shop to order this. It is such a cool addition to the Sandman universe and something that anybody who's like slightly into Shakespeare, just into Constantine-ish type magic stuff, into cool wizard girls going to raves and kicking ass, like all of these things. If you like
Or
any of
all of the
those,
above.
all of the above, really, like then this story is for you.
That's really awesome. It sounds like it really follows in that legacy of Gaiman's storytelling
Oh,
style.
absolutely.
Just does a really great job. And yes, it is probably part of because I looked for trade paperback copies and it hasn't been collected, so it is likely a maxi series
Hmm.
from DC Comics. Which, of course, for those of you who are repeat viewers, you know that Paul and I absolutely love our maxi series. They are just such a great format. We've got Far Sector, we've got
Hmm.
Strange Adventures, of course, the Greg Rucka, Lois Lane. Just DC is doing a fantastic job with those, and they've kind of identified that that's a great uh, kind of chunk of storytelling to really let a story breathe. So that kind of does it for our weekly haul segment. We had a couple of things that were new this week, something coming out next week with the next issue of The Dreaming, just some fun stuff. So I wanted to go quickly for a rapid fire round and give you guys an update on the rest of kind of the books that I pulled for the end of the month. So this week we had another X-Men. We've got X-Men number 18, and we're revisiting with Laura Kinney and the Children of the Vault. We haven't seen them in a little while. Crossover number 4 from Image Comics, that is a continuation of Donny Cates's epic and ambitious comic book storytelling with some literal crossovers that are really cool. A couple of covers might spoil the twist at the end of issue 3 if you're not caught up yet. So keep an eye out for that. Then there's also Captain Marvel number 26, and this is the conclusion of the arc where Carol has been thrown into the future and is dealing with the tyrannical son of Namor and the Enchantress, and she has to find a way to get back home and escape his weird apocalyptic paradise. We've also got Miss Marvel number 18. That is the final issue for the Magnificent Miss Marvel. That is the last issue that Saladin Ahmed will be writing. And the book has not been resolicited. We don't know if there's going to be a new creative team, but this is the conclusion of Magnificent Miss Marvel if you've been following that up to now. Up next, we've also got The Return of the Valkyries number 3. That is the penultimate issue in the King in Black tie-in before we hit the Mighty Valkyries in May. And then in April, I'm sorry. And then we've got The Union number 3. That is the third of 5 issues in the King in Black tie-in miniseries that I previously covered on our show. It is a new British style superhero team with original characters that were originally supposed to debut in the Empire event, but they have been thrown into King in Black. We'll see how they're dealing with the symbiotes, but things are looking a little dire about halfway through the arc. And then I also picked up the Eighth Immortal number 2. This is the second issue by Jacob Murray and Alice Barnes. And this is, of course, the really cool story of the immortal prophecy in Kuripan, who has to make sure that there will never be an eighth immortal. There can only be 7. But her feelings get in the way of her upholding of the prophecy. So there was a lot of great releases this week, and I think Paul will be covering a couple of his when he gets back next week. A lot of great releases. I know he wanted us to highlight Two Moons number 1 from Image Comics. We'll let him do the talking on that, but that is a great new number 1 out this week from Image for those of you who like historical fiction and horror as well. So that does it for the rapid fire round. But we did ask you guys some questions last week. We've got Holler at the Hall. That is our weekly segment where we ask you guys a thought provoking, head scratching question and give you the chance to answer it. Come up with your wildest or best or most earnest responses, and we will read some of them live on the air. So last week, we asked the Let Your Geek Sideshow group if you had complete creative control over one comic book character, who would it be and why? And we got some great responses in the Facebook group from you guys. We got character answers, we got the why, maybe they've been underutilized, and we got a couple of prospective pitches. So you guys can check that out at Let Your Geek Side Show. It is marked as an announcement. But Michelle McNeil chose Firestar. She was created to be a roommate for Iceman and Spider-Man for the cartoon Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. The Human Torch wasn't available, and she's an underrated character that deserves exposure.
Andrew Wershborn says Deadpool. I mean, come on, everyone else has. Plus, with Deadpool, you can do nearly anything and then either claim it was a dream or time travel undoes it, or it's a wonderful life of wizard did it.
That sounds about right with Deadpool storytelling.
Right.
That is the ultimate form of creative control, which is complete creative chaos. And then
Right.
Tay Krieger said, Iceman of the X-Men, for a reason you might not expect. He has yet to truly go over to a darker side, maybe perhaps a murder spree. We do see
That's
him
so
dealing.
intense.
It's really, I mean, he could do it. We've seen him do a lot of very interesting and a little morally gray things as part of Kate Pryde's team in the Marauders, including
Mhm.
freezing people solid, but all in the defense of Krakoa and the mutant sovereignty. But that is a very interesting character who, given a chance to kind of explore that story, I know there was a short-lived Iceman series where he didn't necessarily go on a murder spree, but there are always dark potentials for characters. I mean, hey, if Jean Grey can go Dark Phoenix every other month,
Yeah.
let Iceman have a shot. Now, Jasmine, I'm sure you've thought about your own answer for this. If you had complete creative control, who would you pick?
I went immediately to Padme Amidala because she is part of the Star Wars comic verse. And I would just do this really sweet, like kind of teen level, like how DC's been doing like Primer and Zatanna, like that kind of age
Hmm.
range. Padme and the Handmaidens thing where they'd go around while she was queen and she'd do all this like clandestine mystery solving while being this amazing child queen and just like, I would love it. It's like Scooby Gang kind of Star Wars in space girl mystery type adorableness, like, just with Padme because she's such an incredible character. She's so intelligent, and she has so much to offer the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've only seen her really featured. She had a one shot by Jodie Hauser, which was fantastic for the Age of Republic. She well, actually not she, but some of her handmaidens have appeared in the Darth Vader series by Greg
Mhm.
Pak. But it would be nice to have kind of the prime of her life. We also had that beautiful Princess Leia series by the Dodsons.
Oh
I think
yeah.
Padme. I mean, if Lando and Lobot can get their own series, I think it's high time for Padme to get a feature.
Right?
Now, personally, I mean, I would 100% read your Padme or your creatively directed Padme. Um, but again, Comics Hall fans know I am forever a champion for Elsa Bloodstone. I think she deserves her own ongoing series that takes her through the Marvel universe hunting monsters. And or I would love to see a Most Dangerous Game style where she's rounded up kind of like an inverse of Craven and his last hunt, just rounded up some villains or even some superheroes and on a secret island and she's hunting for sport. But I think there's a lot of potential with Elsa, and I know that she featured in the Kelly Thompson Deadpool series because Kelly Thompson is doing the Lord's work. Elsa Bloodstone was also in the Jessica Jones series. Two characters you'd never imagine to be on the same page, but I think it's high time with the availability of Marvel monsters and the concept surrounding the profane British tea drinking monster slayer. We got to have an Elsa Bloodstone renaissance. Come on, people! I every time I'm gonna say it until it happens.
Yeah, giving me what she wants.
Please, please, I've been buying enough comics. I'm sure that translates to enough slush fund money that they could throw some into an Elsa Bloodstone series. But
Yeah.
until then, I will continue my internet campaign for that. So, Jasmine, I have asked you as our uh, typical moderator turned guest host today to impart a question for our dear audience for next week. So, you want to introduce the question to them?
Yes, your new Holler at the Hall question is which comic book character has your favorite costume design? So think of all the comics, Marvel, DC, any outside of the big two, Image, everything. Doesn't have to be a superhero, just your favorite costume design from any era. And you can email us your answers to the question at thecomicshall@sideshow.com. We will also obviously post it in Let Your Geek Side Show. And make sure you follow us at the Comics Hall on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where we will be posting the question as well, and you can answer.
All right. And I see that we did get a question coming through that Andrew Wirshborn has asked if I read Elsa's series during Secret War. You know what? I have not, because back when I was reading Secret Wars, I could only afford maybe 3, 4 titles. I did not read all of Secret Wars, but I didn't realize that they had an Elsa Bloodstone series. So thank you for letting me know. I know what I'm doing as soon as I sign off this show because I had no idea that she had that. I think unless that was the A Force series, because I know she was in A Force. No, because she wasn't in the A Force Secret Wars, but I know she stepped into A Force when that became a 10-issue series after Secret Wars. But I
Mm.
will have to check that out.
I'm gonna have to read more Elsa Bloodstone because of your love for her. Like,
I have they put out this amazing Hasbro box set for the A Force after Secret Wars, and that was actually
mhm.
Kelly Thompson was working on I believe the Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps book for Secret Wars, but she did work on the A Force series where Elsa Bloodstone came in. Again, that's why I love Kelly Thompson. But Hasbro made this amazing Marvel Legends box of the A Force characters, and there is an Elsa Bloodstone figure. So I do have one piece of merchandise, but uh,
Nice.
Andrew, thank you for letting me know that there was an Elsa Bloodstone series. I will have to check that out. See, that's why we talk to you guys, because no one person can read every single comic. Goodness knows that there are a billion releases every single week. That's a scientific fact. That's how many comic books there are every time. But that's why Paul and I got to balance. We got to bring on hosts and moderators who know what they're doing, because together we form a complete comics hive mind. But
Yeah.
no one person can do it alone.
No.
All right. So I think that about does it for our show. Jasmine, do you have any closing thoughts about something you desperately want the audience to know before we see you on the mod side next week again?
I do actually. I realized my background has Goldie the baby gargoyle in it.
That's cute. That
So
is
I wanted to
cute.
share that with everybody in case you hadn't Google searched it, which is what I needed you to do because I need you all to see the amazing art and that adorable golden blob child. So there she is.
So if you guys are watching live, there you have it. That is Goldie the gargoyle. But if you guys are listening on the podcast format, which does go live on Thursdays after our Wednesday shows, hopefully all these books are still available for you to pick up. But you can Google or go to sideshow.com/geek. We will be posting a blog by the time that this podcast goes live, and we will have all of the visual assets from the show, so you can see the incredible Silence of the Lambs cover for Stray Dogs. You can see the awesome Kevin Wada artwork for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and one of the really cool covers for Marvel Legacy. See if we can track them all down for you guys so you can see the gallery of covers. But there were a lot of variant covers this week. But I'll be sure that we get that asset so you guys can see Goldie the Gargoyle on the blog as well. So with that, don't forget to email your Holler at the Hall responses to the Comics Hall at sideshow.com. You can also shout out at us at the Comics Hall on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We will post up the question in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, and we'll probably have another panel of the week showdown because that showdown waits for no vacation. We'll be right back onto that next week, and we're going to be hitting the first week of the month. Next week will be March 4th, March 3rd, March 4th, one of those days. Oh my goodness, where did February go? But first week of the month means tons of new number ones for you guys, so we will be covering all of those next week when we return for the Comics Hall. Until then, thank you guys for watching. As always, I'm Amy.
I'm Jasmine.
And this has been the Comics Hall. Thanks for watching.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.